Hi everyone, welcome back to Islam Unbox. Today I will be talking about Isaac and Ishmael. Christians believe it was Isaac that was going to be sacrificed by Abraham, but most Muslims believe it was Ishmael. There are Muslim scholars who believe it was Isaac, not Ishmael. However, the majority of Muslims believe it was Ishmael. It is hard to know who it was from Quran alone because despite what Quran claims that Quran explains things in details, Quran seems to be missing a lot of information. But the Quran tells us that Quran is explaining everything in details. Surah 6 verse 114. Then is it other than Allah I should seek as judge, while it is He who has revealed to you the book, explained in detail. And those to whom we gave the scripture know that it is sent down from your Lord in truth. So never be among the doubters. Surah 12, verse 111. There was certainly in their stories a lesson for those of understanding. Never was it a narration invented, but a confirmation of what was before it and a detailed explanation of all things and guidance and mercy for people who believe. Surah 16, verse 89. And the day when we will resurrect among every nation a witness over them from themselves, and we will bring you as a witness over this. And we have sent down to you the book as clarification for all things and, as guidance and mercy and good tidings for the Muslims. About this surah, An-Nahl, verse 89. I will have another topic based on this verse and how Quran in one verse we can talk about a couple of things or even a few things because it is not well presented. It is all over the place. Now, back to our topic. All those verses say the same thing. Quran explaining things in detail and give you clarification. How mentioning less than the previous books is giving clarification? How not mentioning names is explaining in details? Well, there are a lot of missing informations in many of the stories in Quran, such as the name of the son of Abraham who was going to be sacrificed. Why would Allah, if He is the creator of the universe, leave out an important information, knowing that He has two sons, creating divisions not only between Christians, Jew, and Muslims, but also among Muslim scholars themselves? And this is not a small matter in Islam. The story of Abraham sacrificing his nameless son is in Surah As-Safat, verse 100 to 107. Let us read it, shall we? Surah 37, verse 100 to 107. O my Lord, grant me a righteous son. So we gave him the good news of a boy ready to suffer and forbear. So when they had both submitted their wills, and he had laid him prostrate on his forehead, we called out to him, O Abraham, thou hast already fulfilled the vision. Thus, indeed, do we reward those who do right. For this was obviously a trial, and we ransom him with a momentous sacrifice. That's that. That's the story. No name mentioned regarding the sacrifice. In contrast, Genesis 22, verse 1 to verse 19, talking about this sacrifice, but the book of Genesis mentions the name of the son, Isaac. In the book of Genesis, God asked Abraham to sacrifice his son, his only son, Isaac. Only son? What about Ishmael, who was born before Isaac? Abraham had two sons, didn't he? Well, Hagar and Ishmael were already kicked out by Abraham before the event. So when God asked him to sacrifice his only son, we know it is Isaac, since Hagar and Ishmael were already kicked out. From the Bible, we can easily read the reason why they were kicked out, but not in Quran. And another thing that makes more sense, it was Isaac as the sacrifice, as the Qurban. Because from Quran and Bible, we can read the importance of Isaac. And why Isaac, not Ismail again? Let me read a couple of verses from Quran. Surah 37, verse 112. And we gave him good tidings of Isaac, a prophet from among the righteous. The birth of Isaac was announced as a good tiding, even though Ishmael was already born, and supported by the fact Hagar and Ishmael were kicked out, shows even more that Ishmael is of no importance. Now, remember in Surah 37, verse 100, Abraham said, "Oh, my Lord, grant me righteous son." The same Surah, verse 112, said, "We gave him good tidings of Isaac." A prophet among the righteous. Righteous is the common word between the two verses. So righteous is the common word between the two verses, right? God asked Abraham to sacrifice his son. When Jews and even Muslims sacrifice animals for God, the animal must be pure and perfect. They cannot sacrifice an animal that is sick or limping or has disease or blind, one eye blind, something like that. No, the animals have to be perfect. So the same thing as this, the son to be who was to be sacrificed has to be good and righteous. In Surah As-Safat, verse 100 to 107, the context is clear. It shows how Isaac was righteous. God would not ask a sinner to be sacrificed. Jesus was sacrificed because he is holy. If a sinner sacrificed for atonement, then the sacrifice would not be accepted. The only sinless can pay the sins of sinners. Sinners cannot pay other sins. Many Muslim scholars say Allah told Abraham to send Hagar and Ishmael away, aka kicked out or kicked them out because of Sarah was jealous of Hagar. I want to tackle this problem while we are on the subject. How is it possible for Sarah to be jealous of Hagar? In the Bible, Ishmael making fun of Isaac. Genesis 21, verse 8 to 21 explains to us how Ishmael mocked Isaac that caused them to be kicked out to the desert. God, God told Abraham to listen to Sarah, which he did. In Islam, there is no real explanation why Sarah was jealous of Hagar. This is also impossible because Muslims know Abraham kicked them out to the desert. And they believe Sarah was jealous of Hagar. If Sarah was jealous of Hagar, if Sarah was the one who was jealous of Hagar, why Hagar got kicked out to the desert with only water and food? Well, religion is always a matter of faith, but common sense will help from time to time. In summary, according to Bible, Sarah could not have children before, right? Therefore, she asked Abraham to take the Egyptian woman for him so he can have a son. He did and had a son named Ishmael. And then God visited him and gave him the glad tidings of Isaac. Sarah gave birth to Isaac a year later after God visited Abraham. Now, if Ishmael was somewhat important, if Ishmael was a prophet, would God give glad tidings of Isaac? Abraham already had Ishmael as a son. This is because Ishmael was not righteous. Remember again, Surah Safat verse 100. Abraham asked God for a righteous son, which later was going to be sacrificed. Now, I hope we understand why it was Ishmael, not Ismael, why it was Isaac. When Ishmael was born, a prophecy was made about him. Genesis 16, verse 9 to 12. Then the angel of the Lord told her, "Go back to your mistress and submit to her." The angel added, "I will increase your descendants so much that they will be too numerous to count." The angel of the Lord also said to her, "You are now pregnant, and you will give birth to a son. You shall name him Ishmael, for the Lord has heard of your misery. He will be a wild donkey of a man. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand against him. And he will live in hostility toward all his brothers." Most Arabs claim to be the descendants of Ishmael, as we can see how they are still fighting others and fighting one another among themselves until now. The prophecy is correct. That's all from me. For those who believe it was Isaac, may the love of God be with you. And for those who believe it was Ishmael, may the love of God be with you. Have a nice life.